Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. This is Crayfish's China Let's Talk Business weekly series. Today, I'm going to talk about how to do B2B digital marketing in a post-COVID-19 China. My name is Jiao Li, and I'm the co-founder of Crayfish.io. A little bit about Crayfish at the beginning. We are an online platform and we are a credible alternative to traditional service providers and agencies. We have two pillars of services. One is called fixed price services, where everything is pre-scoped and the service providers are pre-selected. You will have a very transparent transaction flow from the beginning of purchase the service until the end of the delivery. We also have an online marketplace where you can post your tailored requirements or demands online, and we have over 1,000 service providers online who can take your project. And not just we have external resources like the service providers, but within our team, we have combined 80 years of experiences of international business and cross-border projects. So today I'm going to talk to you about China B2B digital marketing specifically. I remember I usually do this type of webinar once a year, and the contents that I prepared for today is quite different from what I did in 2019, partly definitely because of the pandemic, and partly because of the pandemic, which actually drove the digitalization of the whole B2B marketing process. Before, we usually say B2B marketing is a little bit falling behind of B2C marketing on the digitalization perspective. But if you look at what has changed during the past year, definitely digitalization and also doing marketing digitally has become a huge trend, not just in B2B marketings for tech companies, but also in traditional manufacturing companies as well. We have seen this trend among all our customers, basically. If you are operating in B2B market and you are thinking about doing business with China, I have to say that if you are in China already, then you are very lucky. The reason is because China B2B market is recovering really quickly and even ahead of the consumer market. This is the data that I got from the IPI growth rate, which is Industrial Production Index. And this index can eliminate the effect of the B2C consumer market growth from the macroeconomic growth. So you can see here, starting from last year's, from April, the B2B market has already recovered and it has continuously growing. And this trend is still ongoing. So if you are in China already, then it's good. If you are not, I think it's really a good time for you to consider to go to China. So the first step is definitely doing digital marketing. And it's not just it's recovering, and a lot of deals are happening remotely now. Here, I would like to draw your attention to the key three data sets. You can see here, all the traditional source of revenue has decreased apart from fax, which is already a really small portion of the traditional channels. But if you look at the digital interaction with sales rep and also the digital service, which I'm going to talk about in detail later, has growing significantly, especially by video conference through Zoom, Teams, Skype, and also in China, it's through Tencent video conferencing or online chat. This includes chatting with customers via web chat, emails, and in China, WeChat as well. McKinsey actually, this data is actually from McKinsey's survey. They did the survey in April and they did it again in August to show the difference where China just got off the pandemic and has been recovering for a while. The trend is quite consistent, and more than 90% of B2B decision makers expect the remote and digital model to stick around for the long run. And 4 in 5 of them believe that the new model is as effective or more effective compared to before COVID-19. And especially for digital self-service, because at Crayfish, we are really lucky. We are a digital platform. What we have seen is a lot of transactions are happening online, not just for ourselves, but also for our clients. E-commerce, which seems to be the last step of the B2B transaction digitalization process before, now it becomes a really huge trend in China as well. Actually, in McKinsey's survey, 98% of B2B buyers claim that they will make a purchase in an end-to-end digital self-service model, with a lot of them agreeing that the money that they would like to spend is as high as $50K or more. So basically, I remember it was last April, one of our clients was doing a B2B digital marketing strategy with us. She asked the question, basically, do you think we need to develop the e-commerce capacity now? Back in April, we said, it might not be your top priority. You could actually do your marketing first, and then if there is interest, you can start your e-commerce channel. But if you ask me now, the question again, I would say the e-commerce strategy has to be part of your digital marketing strategy already if you are targeting the Chinese market. And not just the sales is happening online, a lot of B2B digital marketing is happening in China already. So if you look at the detailed channels of most beneficial supplier interactions for researching, considering suppliers in China, the dark blue bar is the data of 2019, light blue is the data of 2020, and McKinsey separated them into digital, direct, and traditional. So if you look at the traditional channel, everything has declined, including referral from someone, trade show, printing materials. But if you look at the digital self-serve, including search on mobile, it has increased from 7% to 34% already, and it's 400 times increase. And also, before Chinese B2B buyers, they didn't actually usually very active on social media to check the supplier's information. But if you look at here, the post on social media and online, before it was only 2%, and after pandemic, it's already 24%. So this shows that the buyers in Chinese market has already grown into the digital phase. It's not just because of the pandemic, but also because of the digitalization trend happening in China already. So you need to be aware that when you walk into the Chinese market, even if the pandemic passes and it ends, the digitalization trend will stay. So it's very important for you to understand how digital marketing works in China and what the implication is for B2B marketeers. So what's the impact of that? We already understand. Now I'm going to talk about what we can do as a B2B business with limited budget and resources. So first of all, we need to consider your buyers. Your Chinese buyers are living in the digital world themselves. They are consumers in their leisure time, and they just happen to be your B2B buyers when they go to work. So their digital behaviors will stay the same or quite similar to what they are doing in their personal lifetime. So it's very important to understand that Chinese digital world is very fragmented. So there are loads of platforms that people jumping into between different platforms on a minute basis, not even hourly basis, and people distribute their time very dynamically among different platforms as well. So if you look at the chart on the right-hand side, on the horizontal axis is the monthly active users, and on the vertical axis is accumulated monthly active users growth rate. So the higher the bubble is, the higher growth it is, and the more right the bubble is, it means the more users are doing that. And the bigger the bubble is, it means the longer the consumers or your customers, your buyers are spending their time on. So you can see a lot of people are spending a lot of time on networking, on WeChat, However, another huge trend that I would like you to have an understanding is both videos and short videos, especially the short videos. So because of the introduction of ByteDance TikTok, you can see that a lot of people are spending more and more time on short videos. So that can be a very interactive way for B2B buyers as well to understand your products. And the last trend, but not least, is the distraction on mobile. In China, 95% of the people has a mobile phone, and some of them even have more than 2 mobile phones. So it means that people are spending loads of their time on their mobile. They will do their research more properly on desktop, but a lot of the time, a lot of the searches are happening on the mobile as well. So after quickly understanding your bias, considering the time limits that we have today, I would like to draw your attention to how to get the basics right. So after you have a localized product and content, which is the first thing that you need to do, these are the basic channels that I would urge you to consider before you go into Chinese market to do digital marketing. The first one is to have a localized Chinese website, and second is WeChat Weibo official account for social media. And then you need to have a Baidu SEO plan, if not an SEM plan, if you're not ready to spend the money. And then Juhua and Toutiao, which is a news distribution channel, which I will talk about later, and linking account as well. But the difference for linking account here in the UK and in China is a lot of Chinese professionals, they will use linking to basically find a job. They are not used to browse the activities on LinkedIn as a social media. However, when they search for you, they will go for LinkedIn if they are in multinational companies. So it's very important that you have a LinkedIn account there in China, but you might not need to update as often as what you have done here in the UK. So I won't touch on every perspective of these basics. I will only briefly touch on the Chinese website, a little bit on SEO, and an introduction on Juhua and Toutiao. So on the Chinese website, a quick comparison between the typical Chinese website and a British website. On the right-hand side is BBC, on the left-hand side is QQ.com. Both of them are news websites. What's your impression? Yes, so the Chinese website is usually busier than the British website. It has many more links. It's more colorful, also providing much more information on it. Not on this one, but there are loads of websites they put on QR code and flash and animation on it as well. Everything is because the cultural difference and language difference. For example, Chinese language is not as concise or as accurate as English. So usually we need more words to convey the same idea in English. Cultural differences. Chinese culture is a very high context culture, meaning that we would like to have as much information as possible before we move on to make a decision. However, compared to the UK, the Western people, we would admire the minimalism design, and we would like to follow a lower context culture where you give me the most important information and then make my own judgment. So I can talk this in 1 hour, 2 hours time, but this to just give you some background information that there are huge differences in culture and languages, which result in the quite different look that you can find in the Chinese website design. So a little bit more in detail. For example, in navigation, Chinese, so this is Amazon in China on the left-hand side, Amazon in UK on the right-hand side. Usually the navigation bar in China is horizontal, not compared to Amazon here, it's in vertical. This is because Chinese people will browse the website horizontally because of high context culture. We will absorb all the information and then we move to the next screen. However, here people browse in a more vertical way because we need to find the logic. So it's usually why and the brand and why and how we work this step by step. So you do it vertically, but in China it's horizontally, and also it provides much more options than what we have here, also because of the cultural difference. And the content structure. So on the left-hand side is booking.com, right-hand side ctrip.com. Both are travel-related tourism websites. On the left-hand side, the West, it use a lot of white space and graphics to give people focus, to make sure that people are focusing on some of the most important things that you would like them to see. But you look at the right-hand side, in Chinese culture, people tend to fully utilize page space for content. You can hardly see any white space on a typical Chinese website design. And the last but not least, color. And so a lot of Chinese websites are much more colorful than what we have here. And each color has different meaning in China. We had a client whose brand color is black. So when we did the website localization for them, we specifically asked them, like, we can keep certain areas in black, but we definitely won't suggest that you have a full black website. It's because black sometimes means death in China, so it's not very lucky in Chinese mind. So this is the website, and on the Chinese SEO and SEM, very quickly as well, there are some key differences between Chinese and English SEO and SEM, but this is mainly for Baidu. Baidu is the first and the most important Chinese search engine that you need to be aware of. It currently has more than 220 million daily active users. Because it's a Chinese-focused search engine, it means that it has a bias towards anything Chinese in Baidu's algorithm, whether it's a language, Chinese versus English, or it's the top level domain is .cn or it's .com, or it's .co.uk, and all the server is located in mainland China, or it's actually outside of China, here in the UK. Everything, if it's Chinese related, it should be in Chinese. That's the general idea. But in terms of for example, the server location, we can work around it by putting the server in Hong Kong or in Singapore, which is close enough to China, but it's not in China because of the ICP license that you need to obtain if you would like to host in China. And also, as I mentioned, everyone is using mobile to search, so you need to optimize it for your mobile as well. The other thing that you need to consider is Baidu's crawling and indexation of their website is not just your website, but also how you appear in the Baidu ecosystem. For example, Baidu Zhidao is like Quora, and you have Baidu Li Xianbao and Baidu Qibaike. So Baidu actually has an ecosystem of their website, and they usually put the content in their ecosystem at the highest level in the search result page. So it's very important that when you do SEO, you don't just do it for your website. You will also need to generate some content for the ecosystems as well. And the next platform that we'd like to talk about is Juhua. It's like the Quora, the question and answers platform here in the UK, but in China it's called Juhua, and it's mainly for professionals. Why it's important is because of its unique user profiles. More than 80% of the users hold a bachelor degree or above. Of the users, and they have very clear objective, which is to search and ask questions, especially relevant to their professional fields, and they have very massive user base. And another thing is Juhua is one of the few platforms that have high authority on all search engines. Not like if you are publishing in WeChat, it's not searchable on Baidu because WeChat and Baidu belongs to different companies. And another very important source of content distribution is Toutiao. Toutiao is owned by ByteDance, if you don't know. It's a leading news app in China. It has more than 270 million daily active users. It's a content aggregation and distribution app. The uniqueness of it is its algorithm. It has its machine learning techniques to present only the most relevant content to users. So this means that it has a habit to generate a custom feed, including only the type of media. So it's video or content that falls within the reader's personal range of interests. So basically, this means that you can reach your buyers very effectively if they are actively, subscribing or reading your industry information on this platform. I know it sounds a lot, But as we mentioned at Crayfish, we offer a very unique way of offering services. So it doesn't need to break your bank to start. We have loads of different types of fixed price services. For example, if you are interested in WeChat marketing courses, you can go to our platform and buy the WeChat sales and marketing crash course video recordings that I did last year. It's 4 hours recordings, or you can just spend some budget on your Chinese website localization, taking into the things that I just discussed into consideration. And also, you are more than welcome to visit our blog page, our insights page, to have the most up-to-date information on that. Also, all the weekly talks will be written up and will publish through our insights page as well. So while you are drafting your questions, we have received some questions from the audience already. So I would like to address some of those questions now so that you have some time to draft your own questions. The first one that I got, that's why I prepared this slide, is what's the latest trend of the content marketing in China after COVID-19? So these are the two trends that I would like to talk about today. The first one on the left-hand side is live streaming. On the right-hand side is short videos that I described. Live streaming became a really, really huge trend in last March or April in consumer markets because of the pandemic, where people actually can't go out shopping. So a lot of people start to buy personal products or consumer goods through the live streaming platform. And a lot of B2B platforms have adapted this. For example, Taobao, yaoliubaba.com, they start to do this later 2020 as well. So the focus are quite different. The B2B live streaming is not about having the deal happening now at the moment. It's more about presenting the company, presenting the product to the buyers, to the potential buyers, to ask them, to have them to know more about their brands and about their companies. And some of these live streaming actually happened in the manufacturer or in the factory, so that the buyers can see exactly what has been done during that manufacturing process. So it's a very innovative way to leverage this new technology. And on the right-hand side is short videos. This is the new trend, as I mentioned, basically led by ByteDance, TikTok, and Douyin in China. So a lot of B2B brands have started their own process of producing short videos on the platform and feed it through. However, if you are not very image focused, or if you are not very video driven content B2B companies, this can be a very challenging role for you as well, because the algorithm requires you to update it constantly. I see here we got another question. Which key Chinese platforms have toggle switches to translate to English, and or which are only in Chinese? That's a really good question. Baidu currently, unfortunately, is only in Chinese. WeChat has a Chinese version, has a both Chinese and English version. The majority of actually social media platforms have English version, but the search engine or Juhua, because of the content, I mean, the majority of them is in Chinese, is not translatable. Hope that answers your question. And I have a next question, which is, what's in your mind are the top challenge of B2B marketing in China for British brands? So in my mind, I think there are two key challenges. The first one is the lack of knowledge about the Chinese digital world. As I mentioned, because of the existence of firewall, the digital platforms or the digital ecosystems are completely different compared to what we have here. Using Baidu as an example, I know I shouldn't say this, but in my mind, it's basically 3 to 4 years like behind of Baidu algorithm. However, in some platforms, for example, WeChat is a thing that doesn't exist here in the UK, and it's much, much more advanced compared to Instagram. So it means that you have to understand the nuance, not just the general idea, but nuance for each platform to understand how you can best utilize it. The second challenge that I would say is the general understanding of China as a country, especially the digital behaviors in different regions and in different tiers of cities. For example, Douyin, so TikTok in China is really, really popular in tier 1 cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Guangzhou. However, if you look into tier 3, tier 4 cities, which means that the cities are not the provincial capitals. It's more like the country level or tier 3, tier 4 cities. The consumers or the customers there, they use Kuaishou, an app called Kuaishou, instead of ByteDance. So when you think about your digital marketing strategy, it's really about micromanagement to the level that you have the strategy ready, and when you execute it, it has to come down to sometimes even city level to understand what the difference of the behaviors are. And there's a question, is it illegal to have a VPN in China to access things like Twitter, Clubhouse? But lots of Chinese in China seem to be on these platforms. I would say it's a gray area. So there are people who say that it's illegal, but I know there are a lot of people who use the VPN as well. So I would say it's a gray area. Considering the time, if you still have more questions, please send it across to our email address, which I will give you at the end of the presentation. But for now, I would like to draw your attention to our next upcoming webinar, which is the how to protect your IP in China in China, and it is next Thursday at the same time. So if you haven't registered, I will urge you to register now. And this is our contact information. So if you still have more questions, please write to us. And at the end, I would just like to say that I think in my mind, Chinese market is still and will continue to be one of the most important markets if you would like to do business, no matter you are a B2B market, or B2B company or B2C brand. So and it's also very important for you to understand how marketing is different in the UK and also in China because of the challenges that I just described. I would say that as long as you keep yourself informed, keep yourself humble and ready to learn the things, that I would say that you will have a high chance of success. And also you need a partner, reliable partner like us. So thank you very much for joining me today for this short but sweet 30 minutes webinar. And I will look forward to seeing you in our next webinar. Thanks very much.